Hello friends, today we map out the 2017 garden. Stay tuned! Alright, now today it's going to look like the 2016 garden, but instead of being 25 by 35 feet, it's going to be a 35-foot square. So I'm not going to keep you on the fish eye lens the entire time, but this small 12-inch by 24-inch piece of paper is going to get dimensioned off. Going to be every quarter of an inch will equal 1 foot. So it's going to look pretty small by the end. What I'm going to do today is take you through how I map out my process, and I'll darken it with some Sharpie at the end so you can really see how things look. And I think it should be a fun, exciting, as far as exciting in January goes, project. Let's get started. So to begin, let's go ahead and map out the perimeter. I'll put that in a time lapse for you so you're not bored. With the grid laid out, I'm ready to go. Now there are simpler ways to lay out a grid. You could do this on your computer on Excel, for example, make really quick work of it, or you could buy paper that's already got a grid on it. But part of the things that I enjoy most about gardening are actually taking the time to do a diligent work. So for me, it's like I'm doing actual gardening out in my garden, but in the garden of my mind. So now we can move on to mapping out a couple of things. First, I'm going to put the directions on here so I know where the sun is coming from. Then I'm going to map out where the shade is usually located on my garden. Then I'm going to segregate the areas that I set aside specifically for perennials versus annuals. And after that, I'm going to make some very non-scientific measurements for where I think certain plants should be. Like, where do I want to put my peppers based off of how much sunlight they're going to get? Or how much water is going to trickle down from this one maple tree that I've got on top of the back corner, and what's that going to do to my zucchinis? I'm going to take all those fun things, little tidbits of knowledge that only I would know about my garden, and put them into effect on this piece of paper. So let's get started drawing out a couple of things. First off, just so you have a little bit of a cardinal rose here, we have north, south, east, west. That's what we're going to be looking at. And I see that I drew that just a little bit off the camera. That's okay, you can handle it. So all of the sun is essentially coming in like this. Up here, let's see, the garden last year was 25 feet. So just for a reference point, I'm going to take 10 feet off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just put a little bit of a marker there, just for my own self. I mean, look at this. This is how much more space we have to work with now. And that is just phenomenal. So I know from experience that the front half, this section that I added last year, gets way more sunlight. So I'm going to, I think it was 13 feet the first year. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. About 13, let's just say. Let's extend that line mentally down here. Now I've got a fence along this side. Fence along that side, and it casts shadow at least a good 6 feet. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A line across, a line there. Great. And I'm just going to real gently shade it in with my pencil. Now we're going to be marking over that with other things shortly, but in my mind and for you and me today, we're going to know that that means shade. I've also got a maple tree. Great big one. It's in my backyard, and it extends over the back, kind of like this. So during the worst part of the day, the shade probably gets up to the perennials, which I'm going to say are about 12? No, that's not right. You know what? I've got the old map. Let's see. Yeah, 12 feet. I'm going to give it a little bit more than 12 feet, though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's do 13, 14. About here to the other, here we go. So this is the old garden line to the perennials. And again, we're just shading this in. So this gets or shade pretty consistently. So this will get, the sun maybe at its zenith will get right about here to the fence line at 12 o'clock, 12:30. So the garden will get sunlight during the peak until maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, and then the shadow starts coming in like this. Okay, so the rest of the garden in here gets full sun all day long, from like 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock during its peak. And this gets less, and this gets less. If you remember during any of my garden tours last year, I had ground cherries in this center section, okay? And in the end, you couldn't really tell the difference. But to begin with, this chunk back here was so stunted compared to the chunk that we had up here, and it was definitely because of the sunlight. Last year, I also made the mistake of putting my peppers over here, thinking, oh, well, it won't really matter. It definitely mattered. They need sunshine. The kale and lettuce and Swiss chard, though, that I had up in the front, well, it was over here last year, that loved the sunshine. So, now that we've drawn out the shade, let's think of what else we need to do. I'm going to be using last year's map as a bit of a reference, and I know you can see a lot of that, but not all of it. So first, let's map out the things that I know are going to be there. There's a section of raspberries that's just humongous. That's not going anywhere. Neither is the rhubarb, and I ended up last year not doing currants. I did do gooseberries, but I didn't lay them out like this. Instead, we added blueberries and gooseberries like this. So let's map them out with some approximate dimensions. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to call it 6 foot for the raspberries. 5 foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes pretty much to my property line, so there's a fence back here. And I can squeeze in maybe a foot. And then I've got a 4-foot fence, so 4, 4. And I want to give myself probably a foot or two to move. So I'm calling it 8 feet, even though that's not entirely correct. It's probably 7 or 7.5. I forget where the rhubarb is, but that rhubarb, it always blossoms. So here's 8 feet out to that 14 foot that we gave, because, I mean, we love raspberries. So this chunk here is raspberries. Raspberries, beautiful. Yeah, I know you can see that so nicely. Then we've got a section right in front of it that's about that long, and it's a chunk. So there is a rhubarb and a rhubarb chunk, kind of like so. And now this is the line for the end of the first year garden, and that's about accurate. I planted the rhubarb right at the front of that. So this section here is the perennials from last year that we added. I'm going to draw a pretty solid line. Let's draw it in purple. So let's just make this thicker here. This whole section, it's about a third, 2/5. This is all perennials. Now we were deciding what we wanted to do last year, whether we wanted to add another variety of plant or not, and here's what I'm thinking we're going to do. We have lined up approximately with these 2 species of rhubarb. Here I have gooseberries. I've got 1 chunk of gooseberry. I'm going to get another gooseberry plant and put it right in front of it. So eventually one day it'll be like a rectangle going north-south of gooseberries. And then we've got a blueberry that's here, and this year I'm going to have to buy another blueberry. So it'll become an area like that. Make sense? And then we have so many raspberry shoots that we are going to put raspberries along the border. We're essentially going to make a border like this. I don't know if it's going to be 2 feet or maybe 3 feet. But this is going to be the extension of Raspberry Town. Raspberries. And you know, this front section here is kind of up in the air. Now, this whole map, it's a set of guidelines. It's not set in stone, remember that. So I'm going to leave this front section open. I still like the idea of doing currants, but I'm not sure. So I could just curve the raspberries out and have like this semicircle of raspberries with gooseberries, rhubarb, and bluebarb in the middle. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? It took 3 years for these to really establish themselves, and I have so many shoots now, it's ridiculous. I'll be able to pull those out and transplant them along here and really develop this by summer of 2018, 2019. I think this would be a nice grove. And as I'm talking about it, I think that's probably what we're going to do because Bridget and I love raspberries. But for now, we'll put a big question mark as to what's going in the front. Great. Good job, everyone. We're done. Just kidding. Okay, now that the perennials have taken place, we're setting for sure this in stone. It's never going to change. This will change every year. What I'm going to try to do this year is plant things in 4x8 sections. Now, we're not going to make garden boxes yet this year, but I just want to think about planting in that size to get myself in the mindset for when we truly do decide to go with the boxes. So, first off, let's talk about what we know likes shade. We know that greens, they like shade. Root vegetables like shade. So beets, carrots. My Brussels sprouts probably like shade. So I am going to do a 3-foot border around the whole thing. That's just going to be probably mulch right now. So maybe 2 feet along the edge and 3 feet everywhere else. I'm gonna, we're gonna call this the do not fly zone. So this is the do not plant, 2 feet. Oh, so crazy setting that in stone with marker, path, awesome. And same with the front here. You know, I have a problem, and maybe you do too. I tend to cram my vegetables too close together, and you know, it looks sparse when you first plant it, but then as the summer goes on, there's way too much, and I'm either giving it all away, which I love to do, or worse, I'm letting it go. Or like last year in the case when I had those cauliflower and Brussels sprouts up here, I ended up overcrowding them so badly. I planted 6 plants each, 6 cauliflower and 6 Brussels sprouts, and they competed with each other, and in the end, I only got 3 of each, or maybe I got 4 cauliflower and 3 Brussels sprouts. Either way, it wasn't worth it. So we are certainly going to do my leafy greens again. And we are going to start that 8-foot section. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's pretend that this is a box, shall we? We shall, because it's my video. Great, we're going to call that a box. We're going to leave a 3-foot walking section in between. It's okay if it's just 2 foot by the fence. It's all shade and weed there anyways. Weeds, not weed. Wouldn't that be funny? A twist on the Midwest Man Mountain gardening experience. You can fit another one up here. But do we want to? You know, we can have things going in other directions. What if we give ourselves 3 feet? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that. Oh, fun. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did it just go 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to put 2 box-like areas going that way. And then leave 3 foot of space. I'll put a parallel planting section going just like this. Now it's good. Yes, I expanded the gardening area, and part of that expansion is not for food, it's for walking space. That's a good thing. So let's think about what we want to go in here first. This is where the leafy greens were last year. Oh, it looks like I already made a mistake. This is an 8-foot section and this is a 7-foot section. You know what? That's okay. This is going to be, oh gosh, well, I'll draw it with my orientation. Leafy greens. And I think while we're doing that, why don't we just map out the rest of this with my squiggly lines like we did last time. Raspberries. Rhubarb. We're going to do this really arbitrary looking gooseberry or Stachelbeer, if you want to speak some Deutsch. And remove this. I know they won't actually be touching in real life, that's okay. Blueberry, great. And I'm not going to draw on that. Let's get back to this leafy green section. Now, I will for certain again do Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. And this year I'm going to add broccoli. So, let's not get overzealous. Let's just imagine we're going to do 2 broccoli, 2 cauliflower, and 2 Brussels sprouts. Two or 3. You know, 3 should be fine. More than enough room. And then over here, let's take, you know what, when you get confused, take a look at what you did last year. I had peppers over in this area and I had eggplant and zucchini. The eggplant and zucchini did just fine. And we love zucchini. And you know what? I think our one plant last year had something like 14 actual vegetables on it, which was astronomical. So in this back bed, because this gets a lot of water, and that zucchini can really take it. So I'm going to put the zucchini in the very back corner, and I'm going to put the eggplant next to it, because the eggplant didn't mind not having a lot of sun, and honestly, we don't eat a ton of it. So we're going to do zuc and egg. We'll know what that means. Let's save this spot for later. I'm not entirely certain what we'll do there. So then, this is our sunny area. On the sunny side of the street. You know, actually, let's start with the beans. Let's fill in some of this space. I loved my beans last year. We had such good luck with it, and I gave them a perfect amount of space. So I'm going to do that again, except I'm going to give myself a little bit more space to walk. Oh no, I'm not. That was perfect. Okay, so let's find an arbitrary center. No, let's not find an arbitrary center. Let's find this center. I gave myself last year, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet for beans. I love it. I'm going to give myself 7 feet just to go with what I have here. And I gave myself a 2-foot thick section. So this is going to be beans. Yay, with a 3-foot walking section in between. And we'll make this 2 foot here. Beans! And this year we're going to have, not trellis, but some sort of an overgoing arch that's going to be climbing over that. How cool will it be to see the beans growing there, and then I can walk underneath my beans. If it works like that, I'm going to be flabbergasted. It's going to be wonderful. I'm doing ground cherries again, but let's just take a pause on that. We definitely need to give 3 foot worth of walking space here. You remember last year when I had the beans in this section just like this, and I planted the ground cherries after it? They spread. Oh my goodness. It was like the plague. So we're going to do walking space here, and then I think we're going to put our 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't you love just imagining what I'm going to say? We are going to make this peppers. 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 Anybody out there watch the movie When Harry Met Sally? Peppers. That's how he says it, like a funny man. Billy Crystal, what a good guy. So we know we're going to do peppers. I know I'm going to do... Thoughts are coming into my mind. I am for certain going to do tomatoes, of course. But you know, I had way too many tomatoes last year. More tomatoes than you could shake a stick at. And maybe that's an expression that's only important here in Wisconsin, but I'm not going to do that again this year. I'm probably going to plant maybe 3 or 4 plants worth. And I am going to trellis them again. We're going to do, probably, we'll use that staple shape trellis. And we'll have probably 2 here and 2 here. And I'm going to leave the back open because I don't want them to be overcrowded. Maybe we'll put 1 in the back. So we'll do up to 5 plants. Last year I had like a dozen plants. It worked well in the back. But instead of doing it in the back, I think I'm going to put it behind the peppers. So I know that these are 1, 2, 3, they're 4 foot. They're about 4 foot square. So let's make a square here for my tomatoes. Do we want it to be just tomato? Oh, see, conundrums. Let's see, what do I want to do? You know, we're going on 20 minutes. That's fine. I can ramble to my heart's content. Well, you know, why don't we think about some other things? Some things that don't mind the shade. I think this area, as it gets a lot of shade, and we already talked, the root vegetables don't mind not having shade. In fact, they do very well in cold weather. So, as the shade keeps the temperature down, I think I'm going to mound this area up. Not a full like mound as if I were planting potatoes, but I think this would work well for really loose soil. I'm going to put a lot of compost in here, and I might add some sand. Well, not sand, but you know what I mean. Something to make the soil really loose because it got way too compacted last year. And in this area, I'm only going to do carrots and radishes. Yep, that's it. Don't overdo it. Good job. I'm so proud of myself for not overdoing it right now. You guys don't even know. Okay. I am going to add this year a couple things that sprawl. And you know, I've got a lot of space here. So let's talk about the things that sprawl out way more than they need to. First off, what is this? 1, 2, 3 for walking space. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that only offers a 2 foot section here for growing. So maybe I didn't think that out too well. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Man. Okay. Let me think. 3 foot section. Why not? You know, I get good sunlight up here. And I am doing a gardening series this summer called Gardening with Children. And it's going to be with my godson, Edward. And he'll be 3.5 by the time that this series rolls around. I think he and I are going to take this prime real estate up at the front. It's going to be a whole bunch of things in here. Should be fun. Edward. Love it. But I still need space for my things to sprawl. You know, last year I had my bench back here, and I didn't really sit inside my garden. It was kind of disappointing. I think I'm going to leave space. So if this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3, the bench isn't 2 feet wide. 1, 2, 3 gets us here. This is going to be approximately. Obviously the bench isn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, isn't 7 feet wide or 8 feet. Draw some more hashes so it's consistent. We're going to call this the bench, bench plus. Maybe I'll have a little bit of some storage containers for gardening tools or something next to it, or maybe some potted plants. Potted plant with little flowers coming out of it. That could be. Then I can actually sit and have all my things around me to take it in. I think I'd like that. And now this leaves us with space for the things that are going to sprawl. And I know this is a shady section. And I know I was complaining earlier about my ground cherries looking stinted at first. I still think I'm going to put them in this area. That should be fine. So the way they spread, last year I gave them way too much space. I'm going to do half as many ground cherries. I've only planted them in 2 3-foot by 3-foot sections. So one 4 by 8 is going to be plenty. Do I want them in the back though? Or in the middle? I think I'll put them in the middle. So if this is the line here, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be ground cherries. And we are going to do make another one. We're going to do more things that spread. I mean, obviously the zucchini spread, but I think here, let's call this squash. All right, and now I'm running out of room. That's okay, I have an idea. And lastly, my cucumbers, which I did not leave room enough for last year, but I will this year. The cucumbers, they don't need a full big section, so let's squeeze them in back here. They'll do just fine, because they grow up on angled trellis. Cucumbers. So what am I missing? Last year I did a melon. I got a couple melons out of it. They were fine. I don't need to do that again. Soybeans and my soybeans, the bunny ate. Oh, but snap peas. Now I love snap peas. And they grow very quickly. They're one of the earliest things. So where can I intersperse them that they're not going to compete with other things? That's a great question, Christopher. I'm glad you asked. Wonderful. I think since they are so early and ground cherries are much later than that, if I put a trellis here along the perimeter of the ground cherries, I can co-plant my peas. They'll get plenty of sun. They'll grow up. I mean, these are one of my first things in June and July that I'm eating, and the ground cherries aren't until much later than that, by a month and a half. And I'll rip them out after the fact, and I'm probably not going to do a fall garden, so they'll just be done. Oh, that's a perfect idea. Good, I was able to add my peas. Co-planting is an important aspect, knowing what to plant next to what else. Maybe you have insects in your area that will be warded off by something like a beet leaf, and you plant the beet leaf next to your tomato because the bugs won't attack the tomatoes because of the beet leaves. You can think of those. There's so many examples online that you can choose from. I don't have that much of a bug problem, so I don't personally worry about it, but it's an important thing to take into consideration. All right. You know, this may look like a lot of space. It is a lot of space, and it won't be full this year. So we're going to add to it. In the perennial section, we're going to do a hillage of potatoes. Mash them, boil them, stick them in a stew. Good stuff. And now there are only two things that I truly want to add, and those are onions and garlic. And I'm thinking to myself, where do I want to add them? I have some space here, but I might put raspberries in that area, and I don't want to overcrowd. You know, this is a lot of walkway. That's empty space. I bet if I could try some cylinders filled with dirt, you know, maybe if I potted some onions or I potted some garlic this year. Oh, I don't know about that. That just seems foolish. I'm at a conundrum. So either way, the question, add some questions to this. What are we going to do with onion? What are we going to do with garlic? Those are good questions. They'll have to be filled in somewhere. Because while this is a very full map, it will ultimately look different when you go out and do the garden and space things appropriately. So I think for now this gives me a great idea of what I need. I'm satisfied knowing what my perennial section is going to look like. I'm pleased that I have my bean entryway. I've got the Growing with Children series. You know, he's located in the front, but he'll really be working throughout the garden. But this is going to be Edward's plot. It'll be fun. Leafy greens are going to stay in their leafy area. My bench in the middle to observe everything. Broccoli and cauliflower, things that like shade, are going to be in the shade, much like my carrots and radishes. This is going to be very arid, very light soil. We'll be doing some additives in there, not chemical, but just for soil treatment. Zucchini and the eggplant in the back. You know, the eggplant might be the question mark. I might substitute eggplant and use that space for the onion and garlic. We'll see. Cucumbers in the back. Now cucumbers are very mobile. I might put them in front of the rhubarb again because that worked just fine last year. We will have to see. Squash is going to be new for us. I'm not sure now if we're going to do spaghetti squash or what kind of squash, but squishy squash. Ground cherries, again, half of what we did last year will be more than enough. And the peas we're going to co-plant because they bloom earlier. And I know in Edward's garden we're going to have at least one great big pumpkin, so that should be fun to watch this entire season. Along the fence line, you know, we can think of vertical space. Although it doesn't get a whole lot of sun, this might be a good spot for herbs. There's a fence in the back, but it doesn't belong to me, so I don't plant on it. And on this side here, there used to be massive lilac bushes, but they belonged to the neighbor. And the neighbor man passed away, and his wife had a company remove them. So that's going to completely change the sun in the garden. We're going to get a lot more sunlight. And that's one of the reasons also that I'm building this raspberry wall here. It adds kind of a nice decorative effect. As for the front, in the future, this is where maybe some grapevines will be, and even further in that direction will be some fruit trees. But for this year, I think this is smart. We've given ourselves a lot of space to walk so we can actually get around in the garden. We are not overcrowding, and I think we're going to have a beautiful, bountiful harvest. I'm so excited. Whew. Well, that sure was a marathon. If you stayed with me throughout the entire time, congratulations, thank you. I had a lot of fun, and maybe you did too. So do you do things like this for your garden preparation, or do you just go at it haphazardly? Let me know in the comments section below. If you'd like to see an abridged version of this video, stay tuned later in the month of January to Home and Garden for Mere Mortals, where I'll post the easiest DIY version of this video with more explanations. So, while you're here, be sure to subscribe. Hundreds of videos, you're bound to like something. And I've got a Patreon page if you'd like to contribute directly to what you see. Special thanks to all of my patrons who make this work possible. Until next time, bye!